All right. Well, our guest today is a good friend and someone that we love and admire, Danette Galvis. With 29 years and counting, Danette has built a real estate career with experience and knowledge in multiple areas of the industry. She brings expertise in property management, relocation services, custom home building, real estate printing, advertising, home design, home sales, general contractor, and real estate investing. In recent years, she has focused on being a fearless Mrs. Fix-It as general contractor on our active deals, real estate agent with EXP Realty, and the flipping and remodel coach for the Women's Real Estate Investing Network. Her not so secret secret and why we asked her to be on the show is her struggle with addiction. Being sober almost a decade, she has been able to keep her health in sobriety at the forefront of it all. After being in an inpatient treatment facility, then to a sober living home, it has become her mission to serve others in these areas of sobriety and real estate investing that drives her forward in completing this book to leave a legacy for her family and bring others to freedom. Danette lives in Dallas, Texas with her family and is where she does most of her investing and has plans to open a sober living homes in the
Yes.
Dallas area in 2024. Wow. Welcome to the show, Danette.
Thank you. I almost can't talk. Hearing that is really like powerful. Like, whoa, okay, that's me. That's what's happened in my life. And it's that's amazing. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's why we really wanted to have you on. We've known you for just about a year now. I mean, can personally speak for myself. I fell in love with you the moment I met you. I'm like, oh my gosh, like just her energy and her faith and all of the things that you're about, I think are just so inspirational and motivational. And even just to watch you grow within the Women's Real Estate Investing Network, to be one of the coaches and to work alongside Teresa, we are so inspired by you as a human being.
Thank
Uh, I'm just gonna say that what's interesting for me is that I did not know your entire background, what you've been through, and from the outside looking in, from my perspective, alls I saw was a super disciplined person. You
Mhm.
know, yes, I agree with Corey Beth on all those fronts. I mean, your faith, you're a beautiful person inside and out, wonderful personality, but what I got drawn into and what I always get drawn into are people of discipline. So it's so interesting to me to hear, your background. And I'll be honest, the first time I heard it, I was like, really? I was like, I would have never, ever guessed that.
Well, and I think that that's
think
where
I
we'd
just
like to
did
go
the same
first.
thing. I'm like, really? That's me. Okay.
It's very amazing. I mean, let's go there first. You completely got rid of alcohol 9 years ago. I know that your journey has been about 13 years long, and I really want you to share what you shared with me on the phone a few weeks back, where you said that alcohol was a stealer of your dreams and goals. I think people are really gonna resonate with that message.
Yes. So, excuse me, my voice is waking up this morning, but and I could also just acknowledge I smoked and drank. So that's why my voice sometimes is so raspy, the damage I did there. But I realized later, actually, I would say probably 2 years ago, I had an aha moment. And it was just when I joined the Women's Real Estate and Investing Network. I was a student first. The Lord just really shared with me that it was this whole journey, while it might seem years and years and years of why hasn't it happened yet, his timing is perfect. And his timing was showing me that I had to get through and go through all of those struggles and that addiction, and then figuring out how to get free from it. That really was the journey first that had to happen. But in that meantime, the enemy wants to work on our mind of what we haven't done, the failure. You're this, no one's gonna like you or want to be around you. Fall down drunk, whatever it might have been that the words that came into my mouth, I'm sorry, my mind, it was torture, right? The enemy really wants to torture us, and that is what steals us and takes us off that path that the Lord has always had for us, our calling and our purpose. That's the question of life, is like, what am I here for? And so I had that aha moment of, this is what I'm here for. It's still here for you. It never went away. You just had to go through what what I've given you as your lot in life before you could see it clearly. So it was just like, okay, here's my purpose. My purpose is to share my story. My purpose is to be a light to those that are suffering an addiction in any way, whether it be, you know, you mentioned before, food, whether it be drugs. Drugs and alcohol was my thing. I was able to get rid of drugs once I was, you know, found out I was pregnant. That was like, oh, okay, no. And of course, I didn't drink during pregnancy, but after I had my baby, I was drinking again and a little bit of drugs, but that was a lot easier to get rid of. The alcohol is what was the hardest for me to really let go of. So I see now the purpose of that addiction in my life was a little thorn in my side, right? A big thorn in my side, but the Lord has graciously given me freedom, and I've been willing. But I wasn't willing in the beginning. That's why you mentioned my journey of 13 years, but 9 years of it is sober, no alcohol. The years before, it was a roller coaster ride of giving it up, then drinking, giving it up, then drinking, giving it up, then drinking. And I think that's probably many people's story that try to get alcohol out of their life. You know, you just throw your hands up and say, forget it, I'm going to have a drink. That happens for a while. So there's no shame in that.
What I would like to do is just for a moment go back to how this all began. I mean, I always think it's interesting finding out people's background, how they fell into a particular addiction. So what is your story?
Yeah. So I was raised in the church, and I speak about this in my book that is going to be coming out. It's my testimony, but my husband just shared with me the other day. He was like, you really bared your soul in this book. And I'm like, you know, I don't feel like it's bearing my soul. I feel like it is really sharing the truth. This is my story. Some may relate, some may not. So here we go. I was raised in the church, and I did not understand the real relationship of having a relationship with a God, right? That seems so big and um, powerful, right? At 13, when I gave my life to Christ, I didn't know what all that meant. I was raised in a church that was non-denominational, charismatic, where the message I received is that I had to be perfect. You know, no drinking, no smoking, no sex before marriage, no, 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 right? Or you're condemned and, you know, hellbound, right? So I fled the church real quick when I was 18 years old because I had that, I can't be perfect. I can't do this. And so at 20, I started to, you know, dabble a little bit in drinking. I actually had two lives, I say. One was one of my best friends was the pastor's daughter, and my mom was very active in the church. And I went to a different school than my best friend. So I had another set of friends that were more of, you know, not all believers. And so I would go to high school parties, and I was the good girl, is what my small group of friends would call me, virgin, you know, like all of that. And I dabbled a little bit in drinking, but not too much until I moved out of my mom's house. So I got married early after meeting my husband, and my first marriage, actually. And not much drinking, but he was, you know, they were Catholic, so they did drink. And I don't mean Catholic as big drinkers, like I don't mean to say that, but they just had more wine at dinners and celebrations, and it was all fine, and it was under control at that moment. After that ended, that marriage ended after 7 years, that's when I say I kind of went hog wild. I didn't go to college. I went straight into work. I got my real estate license at 21 and went straight into managing and owning my own business. It was a relocation service that I didn't realize I was good at it, right? Till you start doing sales. And so I ended up investing with the partner, becoming partners with the broker, and we opened up an office. So I ran and managed an office of 14 independent contractors for I think it was about 3 years, but I was with the firm for 7. And so during that time I was married, and my ex-husband was very entrepreneur, builder, home builder. That's where my experience with building custom homes comes in, and a broker in real estate. So we were doing it all. After that marriage ended, I was single for the first time and legal to drink, right? So I started to do the happy hours and going out with my coworkers, and I started dating someone that introduced me to drugs. And at that point, it was like, whoa. I used to always say I would not snort anything up my nose, or, pot was not a thing. It didn't make me feel, I didn't feel what everybody else was feeling. So from there, it really took off. And I honestly can't believe I'm saying all this on video, but it's true. So that addiction with cocaine mainly was for about 5 years while I was single. And so that is really where it just makes you feel like you can drink like a fish. I learned in treatment, as you mentioned, I went to rehab. I learned in treatment that the drinking, like when you start drinking younger in your 20s, you have like a 2-lane highway. And when you start drinking more, that highway becomes like, let's say a one way, and then it's a 2-lane, and then it's a 3-lane, and then it's a 4-lane expressway, right? The more you drink, your tolerance grows. Well, during that period of drugs, when you do that kind of a drug, it makes you feel like you can drink more. And so I guzzled because there were late nights, there were weekend parties. And then moving forward, met my now husband 17 years ago. We just celebrated our anniversary. But we stopped all that, or I stopped all that. And after pregnancy, not doing that drug, I still was in the guzzling mode. Didn't know how to turn that off. And so that became very hard, because I was a party of one at that time, like being a stay-at-home mom and raising my baby, and my husband working a lot. That just became the normal. Like I would drink sometimes during the day towards the end of my before I really gave it up. So that was probably, my daughter was 8 at that time. So in some of her years, if I would put her to bed, it would be like, all right, she's asleep. It's 8 o'clock, party of one. And then I would just drink by myself and wait for my husband to get home. So it became a really vicious cycle. And I guess I can just finish there answering your question.
Well, I think first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, gosh, I honor you for sharing it. So many of us have backgrounds and stories and struggles like that, but it's kind of like when you have a miscarriage, like nobody wants to talk about it. And I do believe that we have to normalize that, because so many people suffer in silence. And you opening that up or shining a light on it, that does give freedom to others. And so I cannot wait to get my hands on your book. What I want to know is, what was the tipping point where you said, no more, I need to start changing this. I cannot continue down this path. What happened?
Yeah. So, and I write about this also because it is such an aha moment as well. My daughter had just turned 8. We made it a tradition in our family to do a birthday party one year and then go on a weekend trip the next year, first celebrating her birthday, like building memories, and then, not trying to spoil her with party year after year after year with all these gifts and things. So this year was the year that we went away to a area in Texas, the Texas Hill Country, stayed at a hotel that was great with the big pool and the, resort style hotel in the Hill Country, which was just beautiful. And I consistently left the room to go find my next drink, right? Like leaving my husband with her, or we were drinking at the time, so he would also have one. But I would consistently go and have others and hide and down it, right? So I proceeded to be drunk a lot of that weekend, and it was bad. And I was more defiant with my husband, bless him, than ever. And driving home that week from that weekend, there was a lot of ultimatums from my husband, like, you've got to go to treatment from years past, but, or like maybe a year or two prior to this moment. And I was like, no, you can't make me. No, you can't make me go. And who's going to watch the baby? Who's going to be home? You work all the time. And so that was the battle for a while. Well, driving home, it was about a 5-hour drive. It was in silence because we weren't doing well. And I just really heard the Lord just say, you've got to get help. You've got to get this together. And while I was raised in the church I brought up in the beginning of our call, it's still, the Lord has always been there with me. He's always been that one person that I have dialogue with. And I know it is. And even in my hardest night of, staying up too late and not being able to go to sleep, but I had to go to work the next day, I would pray, Lord, get me through this. I'll quit. I promise I'll quit. I don't want to do this. I never wanted to do this. Help me. But yet then the next day, the vicious cycle starts again. So driving home that day, I really just heard from the Lord that I needed to do it. But I also knew it had to come from my heart. It could not come from someone telling me to do it. And that was really the moment. The next moment I want to say is the physical part that I felt in my body. I could feel my insides dying, right? It's not just a hangover. It's an ache that you have inside your body that I could feel my organs were suffering. And so that really was a wake up moment. I didn't know what I didn't know when I stepped into treatment, and I learned about what alcohol does to our body. And I know that's what you guys invest your knowledge in and learning with the health and wellness is this, right? Like alcohol is not going to serve you well in any way when you are when you have an personality addiction. I mean, I'm not normal when it comes to things. I have an addiction personality, and I know the Lord has healed me from it, but that's still there, right? I have to be careful and keep it in check.
In your own words and your own experience, what was it that you learned alcohol does to the body that really woke you up?
Yeah. Well, the liver, it would be the first thing, right? Cirrhosis of the liver is real. It's a big thing. I didn't get into that, praise God, for health, but I have seen and watched people that have struggled with those ramifications. My liver count was very high in my blood work, so I do know that that was the path that I would be on if I did not give it up. Just the weight gain, that's empty calories, sugar, that is hard on your body, and just surrounding your organs with the visceral fat that starts to happen, that damage that happens, the extra work that you make your body do. And then the brain. I was really fascinated with what I learned with alcohol affecting the brain. Your brain is like a sponge, and it holds on in a way to alcohol. And so it's like you're soaking your sponge, your brain, in alcohol. And for some reason, that visual in my mind really made me get back into my health and wellness journey. Like, okay, yeah, no, I need to detox this. How do I detox that? And so it sent me on a journey of detoxing, more so after my 60 days in treatment.
Where where mentally did this put you? I mean, you're in the midst of dealing with these issues, and you mentioned your relationship with God and how that played such a strong role. But I just find it interesting, and I'm going to frame this right with something that I actually read this morning in a devotional, which was if you think of your brain like an apple, and there's two bowls. One is a bowl of water, the other is a bowl of battery acid. And if you put that apple in the bowl of water or you put it in the battery acid and you give it a few minutes afterwards, which one are you more likely to eat or you're okay eating? And obviously it's going to be the one with the water. And the way they described it was this: that bowl of water, that is thinking or keeping your mind on God. The battery acid is all the other things that we deal with in life that we're constantly thinking about, the negative thoughts, the negative people that we're around. And here you are in this situation where it's almost like you have half your brain in the bowl of water half your brain in the bowl of battery acid, and you finally had to come to the realization that I don't want to be over here. I want to be over here. So just walk us through kind of mentally that tug of war between those two sides.
Yeah, I mean that moves me because that is exactly where I was. And I believe that is the battle, the spiritual warfare we talk about too, is the enemy on one side, the Lord on the other, and that battle that literally our brain's right there in the middle, right? So that tug of war just in so many areas of life. But when it comes to trying to get free from an addiction, I was angry. I was so angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at my husband. I was angry that I couldn't be normal. Why can't I just have one drink or two? Why doesn't my off switch work anymore? So I didn't get here easily, right? To this coming on my ninth year, right? The first few years are a struggle, a struggle. But it was the consistent, I did start with AA and going to meetings after getting out of treatment. I followed the rules in my best that I could. I no longer go to AA, but all of those things are instilled in me. I rely most on my faith, and I believe that I've been healed from that. And so that beginning stage, it was just trying to get out of that battery acid and detox what the damage I had done. So I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, we can keep talking.
No, I think you answered the question. I think more so than anything, I hope that people who are watching or listening understand that this is a normal part of this recovery process.
Mhm.
That, in one sense, I find it interesting. I always go back to, the dichotomy that we see sometimes, or the contradictory things that are happening at the same time. And thinking about how you in your 20s, you recognized quite quickly that, okay, I can't do cocaine anymore. I got to give that up.
Mhm.
And like a light switch, you can change and
Mhm.
do that. And
Yes.
yet here's this other thing on the other side, which is also an addiction. And, for all intents and purposes, could be considered just as damaging, if not more. And yet you can't shut that off.
Mhm.
And you have these two competing things going on, where on one side, I said to you earlier, when I first met you and then you were in our program, I'm like, this is such a disciplined woman. Like, I love the discipline that she shows. And yet we can show that discipline in some areas of our life. And then in others, it's like it's hands off the steering wheel, right? Like we have no control whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say I'm disciplined because here we are. The enemy is like totally attacking me, like, oh, that's not true. Oh, that's not true. You're not really disciplined. And I use this example, the 6 week that I really zoned in on the program, because before I mean, I've been in the program for about a year now, right? So the first part, I got into it, but I wasn't logging my food. I wasn't getting all the workouts in. But then something clicked when you created a competition with others. And so that really made me want to log my food and show that I slept and got my water and did my 100 grams of protein. And that was for that 6 week period. Well, this last 6 week period, I still have been doing the eating, and I still have been doing what I haven't been doing the workouts as much. And I've lost the 30 pounds, which I still am moving towards more weight for my height and weight. There's still more for me to do. Um, but this past 6 weeks, I was not as into logging it all, right? So I get into modes of being super disciplined along with a little competition. And then all of a sudden, okay, I did that. I was in the top, and I think I was tied number one with another sister. So that was awesome. And I'm like, woohoo, I did it. And then I got busy with other things in work and the remodel of this house, and trying to get this set up for Airbnb and all of the things that go along with just life and work. So yeah, it's fascinating to even hear someone say how disciplined they think you are.
We
Thank
can
you.
back up the bus for a second though. So like in less than a year, you lost 30 pounds on our
Mhm.
program. You've been doing amazing. We see the workouts, we see videos of the workouts, you're in the workouts, you're doing the workouts. You know, for you, what really was your goal when you started with this, I would say, season of I'm going to focus now on my health and wellness and build?
Well, so I have been saying lately, I'm a lady of a certain age. So hot flashes and hormones have been going a little berserk. And along with that, that was part of why some of the weight gain had happened so quickly in 1 year. And so I'm working on getting that all under control, in addition to eating well, working out, and doing the weight loss was just more like, okay, it's still happening, it's still coming off, I need to keep moving forward. I gained 6 pounds in the last 6 weeks and then just lost it again because of that awareness of, okay, I need to up my protein, I need to dial back on any chips that I'm eating, that would be my carb of choice, and then sugar, keep that, at bay with 15 grams and under.
Perfect. That's totally perfect. What was your goal coming in though? You wanted to tone up, get lean, and even
So
out some hormonal
yes.
things.
So my weight when I first started back into getting healthy again was at 164, and I am 5'1". So that is definitely on that obese category for me. And when I gave birth, I had a large baby, I'll just say. But when I gave birth, I was 182 and I was 123 when I got pregnant. So I gained a lot of weight and I had a 9-pound baby. So that scale going up to that 160 mark, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I can't do this. Is not healthy for me. I went into rehab, I was 162. So that 160 mark is just like, that's obviously not a great number for someone in my height and weight and age category. So it just really dawned on me that I had to do something and really stick with it. And that is when I met y'all at the Rain Live conference.
What I find fascinating too, and maybe this speaks to your personality and definitely mine. I think we might be very similar in this way. You mentioned how the first 6 week challenge you were all in, right? Is like you have this challenge ahead of you. I want to be at the top of that leaderboard, and you'll go all out. And then what happens is we get the achievement, and it's kind of hard to motivate ourselves to go and achieve that again. I mean, listen, we're not talking about Super Bowl championships. We're not, we're talking about something that we're competing against ourselves and, some of our contemporaries in a very friendly fashion. So, do you find that you need to constantly up the challenge, like, up the ante, if you will, in order to get yourself motivated to pursue the goal at that same intensity?
Yes, I do believe I need to edit my calendar to make sure I'm getting my workout in. And Corey Beth even mentioned, I think it was on one of your videos you've been doing on social media, is where you threw out the cookie and then you made your protein shake. And I'm not, going all hog wild on cookies, but I'm allowing myself chocolate. Like we just celebrated our anniversary, and every night the hotel room would put a little chocolate next to your bed. Well, I brought all those home for my child, thinking that, she'll eat them. Well, I've been having a few. And so it is a shift of, yes, I need to up it, but differently. Like you were mentioning macros or switching my diet a little bit more than I have been, so that can get me past the 130 mark down into the 120s again. So yes, I would say that there has to be some adjustments to keep me focused and get back on track.
I love that. I mean, what are some of the biggest things that you have noticed in your energy, your ability to do things, your focus or clarity or quality of sleep since losing 30 pounds?
Mhm. Well, I have not been a fan of the scale in my life. I used to say it was just a mental mind trick, and so I never had one. And December, my stepson has also lost a lot of weight. He introduced me to this scale that you can hold on to, and it does a lot more than just tell you a number. It tells you about your visceral fat. It tells you about your BMI. It tells you about your water weight, your muscle mass, a lot of details. So that kind of became a little fascination of watching these things. And then it also shows you if you're uh, overweight extreme, or if it's high, or if it's in the standard green area, it's red or green, the number shows up. So that is something that has helped me stay on track, just kind of watching that every day. I now do the scale every day, when before I was like, nope, I don't want to know the number, forget it. And now I want to know it, and I want to keep track of it, and diving more into, like I mentioned, my hormones, getting those balanced, because that is what's really going to help me get to that number further down. It's not just about the food or the exercise. It's my stage of life that I'm also figuring out with doctors on what needs to happen for me next. So
I love it. What I want to know is, what about like clothes, confidence?
thank you. Yes, my clothes fit again. I also love to shop. Like, that is a fun little creative space for me. So clothing has been like being able to fit back into my clothes, not so much go on a shopping spree. I'm not there yet, but finding the clothes that, size small fits me again versus large. The jeans that I've had in my closet that were very tight, or, I had a muffin top, that muffin top is gone. I love the definition that's coming back. I failed to mention in my little career that my first job was a front desk girl at the Fitness Connection. So in high school, I worked with bodybuilders all the time, walking in and out and taking their cards and checking them in, checking them out, making protein shakes, tuna and rice. Like, I was working at a gym. And so that's where my health and fitness started. And I was a little ripped girl going into my 20s. I had lots of striations and quads for days, and biceps. I would always get comments on my biceps. So that has started to come back. And so I love knowing that I've had it, but just some of that extra body fat is going away in my legs and my thighs. Like, I remember I'm 5'1", and I'm a little German girl, so I have muscle all over the place. And so I love seeing that come back. And that is also where, like, this next 15 pounds, I know it's going to come back even more. So that's been exciting to see.
I mean, it's absolutely going to happen, right? It's one of those scenarios where we know it's not there yet, but
Yes.
you continue to do the things. And I think for you, the big thing is setting that next goal. I mean, you are a goal achiever, a person who obviously can get themselves very driven. And this is one of the things I've always found very interesting about people who have had addictions. They also tend to be the people who, when they do set their mind to something,
They get it done.
they totally get it done. And it's one of those situations where that type of attitude, that personality can either serve you or it can harm you, just depending upon where you're directing that energy. And
Totally.
for you, and for anybody else who's sitting in a similar situation with you, if you do feel as if you are stuck for any reason, or we're starting to backslide in some way, and I'm talking specifically about health and nutrition right now, not about the addiction space, but what I would say is you have to set the next big goal,
Yeah.
because little goals almost don't get it done. You can hit those little milestones along the way, but recognizing that you probably are the type who need that bigger goal. You need that championship ring to go after, and you recognize that there will be milestones along the way that you have to hit, but unless you're chasing the championship, it's kind of like, okay,
I feel
I'll
like
just play the game.
in Pure Physique's next 6-week challenge, I feel like we need like the Galvis Cup. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta like win the cup.
I like that. I
That's
love
hilarious.
that.
Well, and just to speak to the addiction part, and this goes with anything, right? When we're setting goals, my connection and my quiet time with the Lord, He's been reminding me consistently of the things I have done, right? Because we start to get into a place of failure, or I didn't make this today, or I ate that cookie, or I didn't achieve that goal. But just speaking of this past year, he reminded me, I became a coach in this network, the Women's Real Estate Investing Network. I've dove all in. I prepare for my calls. I really have taken that on as a leader role. And that past year. I have completed a remodel project, which while it took me longer than I thought, I've pivoted in so many different ways of remodeling this 1925 home and making it a beautiful space now. And I've written a book, and then I've lost 30 pounds. So in that definition, I've had a successful year, but yet I've told myself I didn't flip enough houses. I only had one project. You loser, right? So it is so that awareness of just being reminded of these little things that, yeah, it might be in the past. Don't look on the past, but yet you need to look on the past for those types of goals and achievements that you've already hit, so that the enemy will stop and you can focus and thank the Lord for what he has done, right?
And
So
amen.
yes, the big goal, but also those things that are big projects that, I mean, writing a book, I never thought I would have done this within a year. And I am now it just got uploaded this morning to get proof copies and author copies for us to edit one more time. And hopefully it will be out and released within a month. So that's just, okay. Thank you, Lord, for reminding me that that's a big thing.
Like, I resonate so much with that. I mean, we literally had a conversation not 2 days ago with our coach about how I'm, like, beating myself up, "You're not doing enough laundry, and you're not enough this and enough that," and,
Onward.
oh, him too, but you know what? I believe that we actually have to have gratitude for those fleeting negative thoughts, because it just simply means that we were meant for more, that we want more. So when they happen, it's exactly what you said, Danette. It's that awareness, like, oh wow, you know what? I actually am grateful for that little lie there. I am achieving and I am progressing on that. I am not there yet. That yet word is so important, but I think it's just a sign and a signal that there is so much more for us. And in fact, I employed a strategy that we just recently shared in our coaching call, and I think everybody went out and bought a journal to start doing this. It's called a brag book, and a brag book is like all the awesome things about you, because we're not 5 years old anymore, or like 1 years old, where people go, "Yay, you pooped." Like, "Yay, you ate a meal." No one does that. We're adults and we're big girls and boys, and so in this book, I keep notes from clients. I mean, the book almost looks like George Costanza's wallet from Seinfeld. It is loaded with just notes and papers and pictures and things, or I'll go in and write, like, "I was able to donate X amount to our church van." I was able to achieve this weight loss. I got on a bodybuilding stage, and when we're feeling down, when we get into that mind space of it's not enough, you're not good enough, pretty enough, worthy enough, all the things, I go into the brag book, and I hadn't pulled it out in probably over a year, but for this coaching call, and we're talking to the women, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just found something else that reminds us, because we have to put that stuff, what we think, down in ink. Otherwise, it just gets lost in the chasm of our brain where we're like, oh yeah, yeah, National Honor Society, right? Like, I forgot about that. And when you can see it, I think it's that reminder, like, okay, it's proof that I achieved this and then I can achieve more. If I did this, then I can do this other thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think I had mentioned also on that call that as much as we also in the past have encouraged people to, come up with identity statements. I am X, I am this, or I'm going to achieve. Sometimes it's hard for our brains to actually believe that stuff because it hasn't happened yet. And
Mhm.
when you do something like a brag book, I had a coach had me do a truth board. I had a whiteboard and I had to write all my truths. It is true that and then you could fill in the blank of all the achievements that you've had. And when you look at something like that, you start to recognize, like, yeah, that is the truth. And
Mhm.
so even though I might be struggling over here in this particular area, or I have not achieved that goal yet, the truth is, I have had success in the past. The truth is, I've been on the mountaintop. Truth
Yeah.
is, I've been at the bottom and crawled myself out of it. And once we start recognizing our truth, that's when we can help combat some of those lies.
It's the journey. It's really the journey. And what the enemy wants to steal is that the beautiful journey that we've all been on in this thing called life. So if you stop and you look at it as a journey, it kind of takes that pressure off. Like, okay, I learned from that. I was on the mountaintop and then I went down or I fell or something, but yet I got back up because I've been on that mountaintop before. I know I can do it now. And so it's just, I think it's beautiful. And Corey Beth, I want to speak to your book. Like, what amazing thing you have by looking back at the impact you have had on women and other people. And that is y'all's goal of having impact on people with health and wellness. And that goes into my goal of where I want to help and impact women that are struggling and maybe have been where I was, 10, 12, 15 years ago. So the word impact just really popped into my mind. I wanted to say that to you, Corey Beth. Like, that's amazing that you get to go back and look on those memories, rewiring our brains, right?
So true. Well, let's go there. Tell us what some of your goals are, because we look at you, we're like, wow, she's flipping houses. She's got all this background in investing and real estate and construction. And holy cow, what is your big dream, Danette?
Yes, that is shifted too this year because of the Lord really downloading to me, joining the Women's Real Estate Investing Network. I heard the Lord say, when I did join, he said, all you have to do is show up and do the work. I already have the houses for you. And isn't that true, right? Like, he already knows what homes I'm going to get my hands on. And so that's what made me join the network, because I wanted to join the network for more than just strategy, but what the mindset shifts, the motivations that, the path that we are all on, and the people that we want to connect ourselves with and be in circles with. We want to rub elbows with the ones that have done it before us, and also with health and wellness, also with mindset, coaching, or whatever mentor we might seek out that helps us get to that goal. The impact I never really thought about until the one day, because I stayed in a sober living house myself after rehab. They say that the longer you're in a treatment program increases your chances of staying sober. So 30-day treatment program, you have a high chance of relapsing. If you extend and go to a 60 or another 30-day program, then your chances begin to increase, and so on and so on, like 90-day program or 4-month or what have you. Sober living is a transition home for people that are coming out of a medical inpatient program into a outpatient program where they're getting help to get back on your feet. So you've got to get a job. You still go to outpatient meetings, which usually are, getting into an AA room or group along with an outpatient program, if you are able to continue that. And so it's just ways of, you've got chores inside the house. You've got to clean the kitchen if that's your duty for the week, or, report into your house manager. You have to, just be accountable. So sober living is that. I stayed in one for 30 days. I shared a room with my roommate, and it's 2 twin beds in a 1-bedroom space. And it is just getting back on your feet, really. So that is my heart, is to now build my real estate portfolio, not with Airbnbs or long-term rental properties where I have one tenant in it. It is a shared co-living space where women will be able to be all in the same, let's say, sobriety program. There's house managers that help along the way. And then you stay as long as you need. And I only stayed for 30 days just because I did have a family at home, and my daughter, it was time for me to get back to being at home. And but some people stay for a year. They might need that, or desire that. They can stay as long as they need. So it is a way to build a portfolio of real estate, still have the asset, but be an impact also. And so on my goal list, I do have it written out of, again, retraining my brain and being positive about how I help and serve 1,000 women in recovery. I don't know where that's going to come from. It could come from this book and getting my testimony out, but I really would love to see that I serve 1,000 women in sober living. However long that takes me, or I don't know, I don't have a time frame on that, but that is just a number the Lord put in my head. So that's my next step, is finding my first sober living home and getting it set up.
So beautiful. I mean, like, I see it. I literally see it for you. And I think 1,000 women is only just the beginning of what you're going to be able to do and impact. Tell us the name of your book and where we're going to be able to access it.
So, my book, just in general, it's Kingdom REHAB-HER. And so it is the play on words. I am a rehabber. I rehab homes. I've been to rehab, and I'm a her. So instead of our rehab BER, it's rehab, HER, rehab-her. And then kingdom is because I want to help build the kingdom and give back to the Lord with the sober living and being an impact for women on this journey. But tying rehabbing homes and rehabbing our bodies, it all works. It's amazing. The Lord really just downloaded to me the title and then also the cover of the book. And then it's all been inspired by him. The words, the chapters are all related to rehabbing a home, but I tie both spiritual and rehab, and the actual part of being a real estate investor is all in there too. So it's kind of fascinating. Kingdom Rehabber. I am working on a website now, so that will be the website is kingdomrehabber.com. And the book will be out on Amazon, hopefully in the next month.
It's just amazing. Congratulations. And you know what, Danette? It's God uses all things for good for those who love him. And just to hear your heart for God and how much you, again, have stayed strong in your faith despite the mountains and the valleys in life. I mean, that ultimately is what he wants. He does not seek perfection from us. I think so many of us have that wrong belief instilled in us because I was there with you too. Don't be a bad girl. You have to be perfect. And it's just not real. But to be able to walk through your journey, he uses all things for good. And I was just thinking about your initials, DG, Danette Galvis, like do good. Like this woman is doing good. And I don't think
Aw,
that that's any mistake either.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I just want to toss on to the end of that piece of scripture, and who are called according to his purpose.
Thank you.
And you have definitely been called. And we always end these episodes with, you were created on purpose for a purpose. And it is very obvious what your purpose is,
Mm.
and you are living it out right now. And we are just, number one, we're proud of you. We thought it was great, everything that you were doing inside of our program and the amazing physical results that you're having, but being able to have this conversation with you, learn more of your background and what you're doing today. I mean, we couldn't even be prouder than that. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. I want to just say one more thing that you just touched on too, Corey Beth. I have FOMO. Do you know what FOMO is?
Oh,
Right?
yes. Fear of missing out.
Well, so the other day when I was editing, I mentioned FOMO in the book because that was part of what drove me in my addiction. I had fear of missing out on the next big party, fear of missing out, meeting my next boyfriend or next husband. I had to go to the bar that night. That's why. Well, fear's a liar, right? So who created this whole phrase, FOMO, fear of missing out? The enemy did. The Lord protected me because I didn't go to said parties, because I didn't do things. So the Lord really downloaded to me that fear is a liar. So FOMO is fake. It's not real. Fake news, right? So I am just really embracing that right now. Like fear is a liar. FOMO is not real, and it's the Lord's protection that I didn't get to be included in whatever it might be in the future and in my past. So I'm grateful for this. Thank you for including me here on your podcast. And I do hope that it serves other people, women and men alike, that might be struggling, that they can reach their hand out for help, because someone that's already done it will be there to catch you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. We are 100% cheering you on, and I'm serious about some new challenge. We can't just have number 1, 2, and 3. We're gonna have some big prize. We got to get that next 15 pounds, going for you. And we can't wait to see you live and in person and squeeze you in just under a
Yes.
month. So
Yes, just under a month. Yeah, I've got to lose the 15 pounds in that month. Just kidding. We'll work on it.
she knows the real deal.
There's somebody who's really learned and absorbed everything. So
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. And when your book does come out, we will be promoting it because we know it'll help a lot of people. And we're cheering you to that goal of 1,000 and beyond.
And I'm going to cheer you on to do your book.
Oh, she is. Thanks, Danette. We love you, girl.
Love
thank
you
you.
too. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Bye.